Hey guys, welcome back to the channel for the third time today. We just did this and talked to ourselves for about 30, 45 seconds maybe before I realized that we were not indeed live. And now I can see that we are. So we obviously are represented by Miss Emily and the Oregon Ducks tonight. Welcome, Emily. You doing okay?
I am. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much.
Good.
Before we get into Oregon Duck football on the field this year for 2024, I have a question for you. If you don't mind sharing with some of our guests that may not know you or maybe new to your account, because I know that you're kind of making your way into the old Texas Twitterverse a little bit. If you don't mind, tell some of the guests, how'd you become a Duck? How did it all start for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It actually started when I was really young. So I come from a family of sports fans, and a majority of them love college football. So it was kind of always around and talked about. And when I was pretty young, I would say probably around like 6 or 7, my grandparents moved from California to Oregon. And in an effort to kind of like continue, having things that we could talk about and be a part of, they really introduced me to the world of Oregon football. And so it kind of just grew from there. I think being from a family of football lovers really helped me just like connect and bond with it even more. And I remember it really taking off during the 2008 Holiday Bowl, because I was like old enough to really comprehend what was going on and happening like with the team. And it's
Yeah.
just like been history since then.
I'm trying really, really hard to rack the brain. Don't tell me who you played in the 2008 Holiday Bowl. It should be a Big 12 team, right?
Hmm.
Oh, this is going to drive me crazy because it wasn't Texas. It wasn't Oklahoma. It wasn't Texas
No,
Tech. No, they got whipped in the Cotton Bowl. Um, oh, good.
your memory
Oklahoma
is
State.
serving you well to remember all of that. What'd you say?
Yeah, that's a dramatic year for me in my life. There's a lot that happened that year. We beat Oklahoma. We lose to Tech on the last second. Don't get into the national championship game because
Right.
of a three. Yeah, it's just a headache. But I do
Totally.
remember that year well. So it would have had to have been. I've never seen you guys play Oklahoma State, so I don't think it was Oklahoma State.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, so
No, it was. It was
Missouri.
Oklahoma.
Oh, it
Yeah,
was?
Oklahoma State. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So y'all played like Oklahoma in a Holiday Bowl shortly before that, I think.
Correct. Right.
Yeah,
And I
well,
was living in San Diego at the time. And
that's
the company that my dad worked for actually had like tickets and had like this whole soiree before the game and everything. So it was like this whole all day event that I was like finally old enough to like really grasp it and get into it and like all the
yeah.
festivities of it. And it was super fun. So that kind of like marks when I was mentally old enough to really start paying attention and getting into it.
Yeah, I remember that time for myself as well. Some of those first memories. Can remember who I watched games with, where I was,
Right.
particular scores, and
Totally.
that's great. That's part of why we fall in love with the game, and why we're at the
Absolutely.
point, yeah, why we're at where we're at now. So credit to your family for getting you into Duck football.
Thank you.
Um, Oregon has always been a team that, for myself, ever since 2001 2000 Holiday Bowl, where Joey Harrington and the Ducks took down Texas in a very high scoring game.
Yeah.
Our freshmen wide receivers, they had the dropperoos in that game. We dropped a ton of passes. I still remember. All had great careers at Texas, so water under the bridge. But
Right.
since then, with the uniforms and Nike, being a big time Nike guy, even though I'm wearing double branding here with the Under Armour,
Love it.
um, I love all the uniform changes. I did not really like when everybody else kind of started adopting that, but I get why they would. Of course, it is neat
Right.
how some of the schools come up with so many different schemes. Um, but Oregon started it. Y'all are the coolest, and you have one of the elite color schemes in the game. So it's easy to watch. It's pleasing on the eyes to watch the Ducks at times.
I mean, I totally agree with you. I think it's very pleasing to watch. I love our color scheme. I love our uniforms. And yeah, I love kind of, what Oregon's done design wise that way.
Who doesn't love a duck, you know? But
Right? I mean, I will die on this hill despite even being a fan. I do think he's the best mascot in all of sports, but people regularly disagree with me, which is understandable.
there's some really good contenders in there.
There are.
You have a great one that belongs in the conversation. I'll go there. I'll give your neighbors credit up there in Corvallis. I think Ducks and Beavers are it's an elite. It's better than Longhorns and Aggies. I'll say that. I think that's cooler. Definitely easier on the tongue. But let's go
Right.
to the football field for this season. We're 2 games in.
We
A
are.
win over a strong Idaho. I know Idaho. I get it. FCS. Regardless, they're going to be very good at that level. And then the game with Boise. And now I just want to know what your thoughts are. There's a lot of people that have a lot of thoughts outside of Eugene, and I hear those. I don't know anyone in Eugene, so I'm curious, or around Eugene, so I'm curious to see how the Duck feels.
Well, I think a lot of people in Eugene and the surrounding areas also have a whole lot of thoughts about the first 2 games, understandably so. I'm going to agree with you about Idaho because, in general, I just like the way that sounds, but I also agree with you. I think that they will do well this year.
Yep.
And yeah, Boise State definitely was a competitive game. I think it has been, I mean, if you view it from like an optimistic lens, it has been promising to see Oregon kind of shift some things and kind of figure out what might work for them this season. It's always interesting when you lose a quarterback, right? And when you lose so many guys from a previous year, trying to find that chemistry and those connections. And doing so in practice is one thing, but kind of actually getting into a game and seeing how those connections can be fostered and forged is going to obviously look a little bit different. So it's been interesting. And since it's like Monday, so we're a little bit away, like it's been, enough hours for me to kind of get over the Boise State game and all like maybe the flaws in that game.
Right.
I'm going to say that it's optimistic, the moves and kind of the switcheroos that I saw. But it has obviously been a little bit of a learning curve, but I do think that they will be fine.
I mean, you've got a fantastic coach, and that's one thing I think everybody that maybe has concerns about the first couple of games for you guys, they will all agree with that sentiment. Dan Lanning's fantastic, and I mean, he had no problem getting this team rolling last year.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised to see the Ducks get hot. Now, I have to add a little caveat that I just can't root for your quarterback. I'm terribly sorry. He broke my soul and heart last year in the Red River.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so to see him struggle a little bit kind of early, I don't, do you think he's struggling? I know that there are a lot of people. It's like I'm saying, I only hear the outside voices. How are
Right.
Ducks fans feeling about Dylan Gabriel's play?
Well, from my perspective, they've been pretty split on it. There's definitely some concerns there that fans have voiced. I think that's mixed with a little bit of, missing Bo Nix and kind of adjusting again to a new quarterback. But I think, we also understand that it's not all on Dylan Gabriel. There are other things that had to be kind of maneuvered and moved around to kind of fit the scheme in the best way. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully he gets a little bit more comfortable and kind of starts opening up more in terms of just running when necessary and kind of doing what he has to do. But I do personally feel as if there has been maybe just like a little bit of nerves, but also just like schematically things that just had to be worked out.
I mean, he's a good player. He's proven that at every stop he's been at. Seems to be a really good kid. So
Yeah,
when I say I can't root for him, it's strictly because he broke our hearts, and
that's understandable.
we want to win that game every time. And so I will say though I do admire his play, and so I didn't watch much of the Idaho game until the fourth quarter. I watched almost all the Boise State game. I know a couple of new additions at wide receiver. You got to find your go-to guy. You got to find who you have the rapport with. And like you said earlier, it's not just about practice reps. It's not just on the practice field. Game reps are
Right.
completely different. And so sometimes maybe a guy that you didn't think was going to be, your first or second guy steps up and you just naturally are able to find him. The trust is different. You know how it goes. And so I will
And I
shout out
will
my
credit
guy.
I will credit Boise State. Like their running back was he did a great job and he's super fun to watch, and I will enjoy watching his success this season now that this game is over because yeah, absolutely great job.
Well, and that's the thing is like when you have a talent like Ashton Genty
Mhm.
at Boise State, 467 yards over 2 games, I think, which in
Yeah,
today's world, you don't see that very often.
right.
And it's not like he did it against bums. He played Georgia Southern, who is more than capable G5 team that has,
Yeah,
snuck up and bitten many SEC teams over the times, or at least scared them. And, they had no issue. They gave up 45 points to them, yes, but they had no issue running up and down the field. And then y'all did help him out at times, a couple short fields off turnovers and little
yeah,
things, silly penalties, things you obviously want to clean up. But overall, I feel like, you survived the Ashton Genty experience, and that's all that
yeah,
matters because he's a dog. He really is. That guy is a
yeah,
lot of fun to
absolutely.
watch. Must watch for college football fans. And here we
Totally.
go. Here we go again. Um, I, according to Kyle, I'm a Tech fan, an Aggie fan, a Duck fan. There's got to be one more, Kyle. Throw that in there. I don't remember which one it is. Somebody, but yeah. So you're 2-0, and that's all that matters.
Yep.
And my team is 2-0. Kyle's team is 2-0. There's a lot of teams around me that would kill for 2-0. You have a chance to
Right.
clean things up without a blemish on your record, and that's all
Right.
that's relevant. And so
Right.
I do want to shout out my guy, former 5-star recruit, former Texas A&M Aggie, who broke my heart in the recruiting process. I've committed to Texas at one point, decommits, ends up falling for the con job that is Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M. It's not disrespect to you at Aggies. That's the Jimbo comment. But let's take a look at my guy, Evan Stewart here as an Oregon
Yeah.
Duck. And I'm 10-7.
Gabriel this time.
Because I really want it to work out. And
There's a touchdown.
the dance,
Gabriel.
the celebration is epic. Like
Yeah.
that's next level. I would love for Evan Stewart to be Dylan's, his go-to guy that we're talking about.
Absolutely.
If it's not Evan, do you have a name that kind of maybe looks the part to you, or from maybe things that you hear? Is there anyone that jumps out to you other than Evan Stewart? Maybe it
Well,
wasn't Evan, but
yeah, this season for sure. I think, well, maybe just because we saw it last year, but like the Bo Nix to Tez Johnson connection seems to be,
yep.
Carrying on pretty well so far. What we've seen from Tez Johnson. I mean, I know the biggest thing from Saturday was his return for a touchdown, which that's great. Hallelujah. Absolutely necessary and needed. But yeah, he's also just a really fun player to watch and to kind of hopefully see that connection between him and Gabriel grow even more and kind of see what they can do this season will be super fun, in addition to Stewart.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
as
the
Texas
dance took me off guard. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I didn't know he had that in him.
I definitely didn't know he had that in him,
Yeah.
and it was like that entire mental process of like, oh yeah, a touchdown. Oh, like what is he doing? And just like the whole dance in general. But yeah, love it.
It all happened very fast for him. Good for him. I
Yeah.
mean, he's a Texas kid, so I root for him. And then I was
Yeah.
frustrated that he went to A&M, and then still as we weren't playing them. I wanted him to do well. I wanted them to
Right.
just lose games that he did well in, and had a huge game their second week last year versus Miami, and then just nothing happened after that. And I don't know. I hated it for him. I know I don't know the whole the backstory to everything. I don't know who was at fault or if everyone was at fault or no, whatever. Happy he's home or found a home. I hope it all works out. You talk about Tez's kickoff. Was a kick or punt return? Y'all had one of each, right?
Yeah, we had one of each. Thank
That makes
goodness.
offense a
Absolutely
little
necessary.
bit less stressful. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely necessary.
Um,
Yeah, if we cleaned up like the mistakes, the self-inflicted mistakes, it would have been a different game. Obviously, I think the score range would have been totally different. We probably would have won by a couple of scores versus a field goal. But like you said, 2-0. We survived. We clean up. We go against the Beavers this week, and then we get a bye week. So kind of just moving on to the next week.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Whether it's by 1 or by 100, at the end of the day,
Totally.
you're 2-0. So you're talking about a whole new world as an Oregon Duck football fan. I mean, a little bit. You're still, you're playing a lot of games in Eugene, but now you're in the Big Ten. What was your thought process as this whole situation with realignment was playing out? No, I'm asking you to go back a little bit, but what were the vibes like, or was it something that you wanted to happen? Did you want the Pac-12 to figure out some way for them to survive? And then now that it is, a reality, how do you feel about being in this conference and just it's crazy travel, yes, but does it excite you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. So while realignment was going on, I knew it was necessary. Doesn't necessarily mean that I was super on board and I was like, yeah, let's do this, let's move conferences. But just with the landscape of college football, I knew it was necessary. So when it was announced that Oregon was moving to the Big Ten, it was like a sense of relief. Like, ah, yes, it's done. Now we know what's in store for us and kind of like what next season's going to look like and
Yep.
thereon. So it was definitely a sense of relief. I think growing up with the Pac 10, Pac 12, and kind of just like all the memories that you end up forging along the way and the people you meet and the heartbreaks but also the wins, it's kind of sad in a way to like think that's gone. Now you're looking at Cal and Stanford in a totally different conference, and you're looking at those in the Big 12, and then even the ones that we're with now in the Big 10, and then the Pac-2, Pac-12, the two left. So it's an interesting perspective to have now. Like everyone's kind of just everywhere. But I'm
Yeah.
personally really excited for it because new traditions will be made, new memories will be made, new rivalries will be made in a way. And so it's really interesting and really fun to kind of think about what the next several years in college football are going to look like for these programs, especially the ones who moved from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten.
No,
Plus, it like
absolutely.
totally opens up like, oh, I might get to go like Ann Arbor for a game, and
Yeah.
like it's like you get to go to new places that you could have gone on your own, but like my team being there absolutely makes it more motivating. So
Yeah.
yeah, the travel is definitely an interesting aspect, but I think kind of like the opportunities it opens up is also like super fun for just from like a travel perspective.
Absolutely. There's, I mean, pros and cons, I guess you say it, to the whole thing. Very selfishly, as a Texas fan, I think that for us moving to the SEC was essential. It really, really, really helps recruiting.
Yeah,
A&M had that pitch over us for over a decade on how they're the only SEC school in Texas, and it has mattered, especially for a certain type of prospect, referencing like defensive line. I do get the midweek travel for volleyball teams and things like that. For us, I'm like I said, I'm being selfish, and I'm like, okay, we're not in a bad spot there. The Southeastern Conference is still in the Southeast for the most part, and I know I'm not calling Texas a part of the Southeast. We're not, but it still feels somewhat Southeast, and I just where I get sad is thinking about like teams traveling from Los Angeles to Piscataway, New Jersey, and playing Rutgers for volleyball, and then going right back, and then going to class the
right.
next morning. And so I definitely, I have a heart for both sides. I understand it's huge for new traditions, new rivalries. Think about the big time matchups that we're going to see. I mean,
Yeah,
just Texas this year, we've got Georgia, which is huge, and then we get the Arkansas game back, which is an old, very very heated rivalry, and then obviously the Texas A&M game back. As long as you guys continue to play Oregon State, and I'll be honest, I know no details on the future of the Civil War rivalry. I have no idea what is planned, but I am glad that y'all play them next. Is that
yes.
is that going to be an annual matchup? Do you assume so, or
Yeah,
no?
I mean, I think for the next few years it'll be an annual one. The last time I heard it might have changed, but definitely this
I
year,
mean,
obviously, we go
Oregon
to
State
Corvallis.
Oregon State ends up in the Big Ten eventually, right? Like, I mean, we're headed towards two major
Mm,
conferences.
yeah,
I
right.
don't know
Like that's
how
that's
far
kind
down
of
the
the
road that
landscape
is.
of it. Yeah,
Right.
we're
And
headed
so,
towards two mega conferences.
right.
Yeah,
And so, just curious. I feel like as long as y'all keep playing them, I mean that's a huge rivalry for the state. I'm assuming I've always wanted to get up there and witness that game. There's been times where I've rooted for Oregon. There's times I've rooted for Oregon State. All depends on coaches and players, and who I kind of
right.
like. I was a huge Jaquiz Rogers fan back when he was a Beaver, and I think it's an awesome rivalry. Absolutely. So we'll let you say one more, and maybe it's your last goodbye to the Pac-12. Maybe just another one along many more that follow this. But what's your favorite Pac-12 memory that you have?
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to think about this question and not think about the 2014-2015 season.
Yeah,
And that probably seems like an easy go-to answer, but I was like incredibly invested that season. I went to multiple games. I was at Mariota's last home game, so that was like a really special moment. And then I went to the Rose Bowl, which is like, top 3 experience in my
Iconic.
entire life. Yeah, absolutely. So even though it ended in heartbreak, kind of just watching that team get as far as they did with all of those special players and the Heisman, being won by him and everything, it's really hard to not pick that as like my favorite moment. But I know it's been 2 years, but beating Washington has had its fun moments as well. And that's always fun is beating them. So I look forward to getting back on track with that. And kind of just seeing the waves in which like the team has gone through and the many players that have been so great and important to the program as a whole, watching them start off and seeing their entire collegiate career has always just been special. But there have been many great moments, and then I can like find you like 5 heartbreaks. So the joys of being a college football fan.
Absolutely. Tons of ups and downs, mostly ups for you
Yeah.
guys lately, which is awesome. If you had to pick a favorite Duck of all time, can't go 2024. Okay, if you had to pick a favorite Duck of all time, I
Okay.
know we didn't talk about this before. Do you have a name that
That's okay.
immediately comes to mind?
Oh, favorite Duck. Mariota would definitely be up there. It's hard to choose him not as number one, again, for what he did with the program. Definitely LaMichael James would be up there. Jonathan Stewart. And I'd probably go DeAnthony Thomas.
That would be mine. I tell you mine, who mine definitely is not or isn't, and that is Joey Harrington for sure. He was really good.
I understand that. I will be honest with you. I do enjoy watching that Holiday Bowl, like when I'm in the mood to like watch, an older game. I do reach for that one often.
Yeah,
but I do understand.
I've seen a few of your posts bringing up Joey Harrington.
Yeah.
I think you even had one about the old Holiday Bowl at one point, and it's all good. We're still friends. I can get over it. No, it's just back then I was very young, and every Texas game was like life or death every single game, and it's a Holiday Bowl.
Isn't that funny? I was the same way. So every game was life or death throughout middle school and high school because I knew I had to go to school on Monday and hear about it due to all the trash I talked the week before. And I grew up amongst like USC fans and UCLA fans. So it was life or death, of course, because like a young teenager, I knew what was in store for me if the Ducks didn't like dominate or didn't excel. Even if they struggled, I would never hear the end of it.
I had a lot of fun. I was a junior in high school when Texas won the national championship and beat USC. And that whole entire month before that, I am getting told by everyone. I lived in East Texas at the time, going to school, and being told by everyone how USC is just going to pummel Texas. And everybody loved Reggie Bush. Everybody around me loved Reggie Bush and surrounding area. They were all. I mean, he was a cool player, fun to watch. I'm sure it wasn't just my area, but yeah. And so I didn't, have real USC fans talking noise, but it felt really, really good to walk into school on January 5th, which I was like 2 hours late because I stayed up till like 4 a.m. watching highlights and all the interviews and this and that. And my mom didn't care whatsoever. She was like, no, just make sure you go. I was like, okay, sure. And yes, Kyle, it's quite true. I don't know. John, is this
from Kyle?
Is this satire, John? I mean,
yeah,
they visited in 2018, and they weren't super friendly, but there's been worse.
They're not usually very friendly.
Okay, we have good and bad fans,
right?
Totally good. I've only seen two USC fans on Twitter. I swear they don't exist on that app.
Oh my gosh, really?
If Arrogant Nation, if you hear this, I think that dude, that's my guy. But
Arrogant Nation, yeah, he's cool. He's one of the cool ones. They absolutely exist. I'm sometimes surprised in the abundance in which they come out because I'm like, wow, this is a lot of USC fans. But no, they've definitely come after me on a few posts, and they exist in abundance. That was a joke for sure.
Oh, this is pretty good, Kyle. I think I saw a lot of those shirts back in the day, buddy.
Yeah.
I remember going to the UT and Villanova basketball game like 2 weeks after the national championship game, and I think I saw 100 different guys wearing that particular shirt, Kyle, and then there was one that you can't spell a particular word without USC, and I swear, like Kyle, little teenage kids wearing it, and I saw old guys up to like 70 or 80, probably not that old, rocking those shirts, and I was like, dang, okay, like go at their throats, I guess. But I don't have a ton of experience with USC fans. I can see why I'd probably feel really, really good to beat them though, and take those guys down. I thought all your memories are strong. Mariota's a great player. Anthony Thomas was insane to watch. I felt like
absolutely.
He was. You got to be top 3 kick returner of all time, 3-5. I mean, I'm thinking Devin Hester. I'm probably missing another obvious name or two, but I mean, he was special for sure. And so that was part of, like, for people like me who, like Kyle said, grew up in the middle of nowhere. Oregon was fun to watch because of those guys. And there wasn't just myself. There are a lot of people that watched Oregon Duck football. But I will say, selfishly, I love conference realignment, but I do hate that the Pac-12 is dead. It hurts my football core, like, just so deep. I mean, USC, when they were a powerhouse under Carroll, Oregon's kind of uprising. Not really. I don't really care for Washington and Michael Penix. I'm gonna be honest with you, for obvious reasons.
You can elaborate on that if you wish. I
love Washington. I get it. You understand. They went 4-0 against us last year. So wow.
I absolutely respect him as a player. I will say that. I respect him as a player. But
yeah,
not the best of times.
You have to. I mean, it hurts a lot to talk about that and think about Michael Penix throwing dots in the old Sugar Bowl. But so I like Washington football, though. I mean, great mascot, great venue. I think their stadium is pretty elite as far as the scene. Stanford back with Harbaugh. There's great memories in the Pac-12. Great teams. Colorado being in there was really weird. I'll never consider them part of the Pac-12. They're always Big 12 to me. Utah, obviously they go and break Lincoln Riley's heart a couple times. Maybe my favorite overall memory in the Pac-12, just because I like what Utah football is about and the physicality, the defense, a lot of respect for the program. But yes, it was a great conference, but there's nothing you can do now. It's a new world, and it's time to roll with it. Speaking of the new world, let's talk about the Ducks and the schedule a little bit. Is there a game going forward on here outside of Ohio State?
Okay.
Let's be honest right now. Out of what you've seen so far, and I know that, you've kind of struggled, but you've played 2 competent opponents. I know that the Idaho score probably, even with them being decent, Ducks fans probably wanted a little more out of that. But is there an opponent outside of Ohio State that you would say you're concerned with when it comes to Oregon winning on the field?
No, okay. So if Oregon gets it together, if they have made these adjustments and they continue to adjust and practice with those adjustments and kind of get it together, no, outside of Ohio State, there's not necessarily a team that I'm concerned about because of who they are as a team.
Exactly.
I will say I have horrible memories of Oregon losing in November. So when you're taking a look at like that Wisconsin game, I'm just having flashbacks of like going to the desert in November where we lost games that we shouldn't have lost. And I'm like, is this our new Arizona State? So this is like, there is some like, trauma from those football memories, obviously, where I'm like, but we should be fine. Like, again, especially like as Oregon kind of gets together more and they practice and Dylan Gabriel gets even more comfortable within the system, I feel fairly confident that if we kind of continue to see that progress and kind of see them make those adjustments, that they'll be okay.
And I mean, I don't think anyone's been like overly wowed with Ohio State necessarily so far. And I'm definitely, I wasn't saying that's a game that you can't win by any means. I think, that's going to be a massive game. Winner of that game, obviously plays for a Big Ten championship. I think that if you're looking at November, it could get a little bit dicey or sketchy. You're going to have to play good football. Play good football and it won't matter.
You do.
But
you have to play good football and you can't get messy.
No, absolutely. And I mean, with Oregon State and UCLA, there's not enough firepower. It's college football. Anything can happen. In my opinion, though, there's not enough firepower from either offense to beat you guys, regardless of where the game is being played. Michigan State coming to you guys, playing a late game at Autzen Stadium, young quarterback, skilled quarterback. I'm a fan of Childs, but that's going to be tough. I am a fan of Jonathan Smith. I'm sure that you might feel a touch differently. Great ball coach. And that's a program that's going to have a bright future under that guy as long as he's there. And apparently, I've been I've been talked into believing that his stint rather with Michigan State will be short lived, but we'll see. Time will tell. Big time changes all the time in college football. But yeah, I mean, then the Buckeye game is huge. Love having that at home. Are you going to get a chance to go to the Ohio State game?
Possibly. Yeah, there is a possibility that I will. But it is absolutely a huge game. Obviously, one of the biggest this season. And I think it'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, like you said, it's the biggest game on the schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be possibly the most elite regular season day of college football ever. If you're going to our schedule. And I say that because we play Oklahoma. I know there's another massive game somewhere that week. Oklahoma doesn't look very great. So I can't say that right now. Your game, I think, lives up to the hype. That's going to be a great one. You have the better quarterback, which in that game could go a long, long ways. But, man, Ohio State, they loaded up. They absolutely hit that portal hard. And
they absolutely did. But you're right. October 12th, there are some great games going on.
And that's, like you said, that's part of the pro and the cool part about conference realignment. You're going to have some elite matchups. The Purdue Friday night kind of feels like a weird game because you're playing a short week after the massive game with Ohio State.
Yeah.
That's one where, you beat Ohio State. You could potentially, play sloppy football at Purdue for a half, but probably doesn't matter. You run away from them. And then if you lose to Ohio State, you probably come out, pretty pissed off and take it to them. Illinois at home, they don't have the offense to beat you. Altmaier played his butt off against Kansas in the second half the other day, played really well. They don't have the offense to beat you. Now, Michigan at Michigan, and this is where I'm not trying to be disrespectful towards you at all, so please don't take it like that. I don't know what to expect there. I know my team just went up there and beat them around and could have scored 50 on them. But with it being so much later and with them having some pretty dang quality pieces and multiple NFL players on defense, I'm curious to see what the defense looks like. But in the long run, it's hard for me to see that offense taking a big enough jump to hang with the Ducks for 4 quarters. You know what I mean? Y'all have a potent offense when you're clicking. Going to chalk it up very similar to our game. If y'all just don't turn the football over, and if you give your defense the opportunity to win the field position battle, to turn them over, and then to capitalize on the chances that you do have, you don't have to do anything crazy. We didn't do anything in the second half. It looked like a junior high football game where one team's whipping the other team. And so the coaches went and talked a little bit. He's like, yo, we're going to run inside zone every single time to get this clock going. And let's both get out of here, get healthy for, the next game. And that's what it felt like. And so I'm not being disrespectful when I say I don't know what to expect out of Oregon in that one. I just don't know what Michigan's going to look like. It would still be really hard to see them winning in that game. I mean, don't care when the game was played. They just don't have the offense that they had. Obviously, you replace 5 linemen, quarterback, running back. I mean, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Maryland at home. That's a November game. I wouldn't worry about. But kind of like you said, that Wisconsin game, it's a little bit weird. They're learning a new offense there. Learning a new offense. So they've had, essentially a full season at that point to kind of figure everything out, figure what works, what doesn't work. Personnel, that I can see why you would bring it up. Absolutely. That can be a little bit of a weird game, especially when you're talking about the potential of having one loss at most on the schedule. They're going to have your full attention. Okay. It's just
absolutely.
Goal. But then again, the city of Madison, Wisconsin they'd be jumping around during that one. So,
right.
And then
it is a weird game.
I don't see a way on earth that y'all at Washington get you again. I mean, obviously y'all are going to be extremely superior to them this year. You should be.
Yes.
That made me mad last year. I'll be honest. I I had Oregon winning both of those games. I was shocked at the Pac-12 championship, so shocked that I never went back and watched a second of it because I didn't want to like be upset with Coach Lanning because I was a little upset with him after the first game. I'll be honest. I get the fourth down aggressiveness. I would have done the same thing, but when it doesn't work out, second guessing becomes a lot easier. What were your thoughts during that whole process? The first game, it was a weird game. Y'all dominated the game. It felt like y'all should have whipped them. It really did. But they win by, what, 4, I think?
Yeah, so we lost both games by 3 points. So, you can look at that positively, but at the same time, that doesn't necessarily ease the heartbreak of it because, it was kind of like, what could we have done differently? And you're absolutely right. The aggressiveness on fourth down, I understand trying it. Can't say I wouldn't do the same. I totally get it. But it's like becomes that game of what if. Like, what if we had just done, XYZ a little bit differently or made different decisions? And this portion of the game, like what would the outcome have been? I understand from an outside perspective that especially the first game was wildly entertaining and very fun to watch. And I wish I could appreciate it for that, but there is not a day that I will live that I will ever appreciate that because I won't go back and like watch it. No, there's just nothing. I love games like that when they don't involve my team. Like when those really good back and forth, super competitive, where it kind of comes down to those certain decisions that were made or kicks that weren't made and stuff like that. But the Pac-12 championship I thought would go a different way, and it almost did. But it took us a while to kind of wake up in that game, and so there was, kind of off the bat, there was some concern. But again, 3 points. That's what we needed.
I just, if from a paper perspective, looking at your team and my team, it's just, and to know we went 0-4 against those guys, like I share your pain. It sucks, and there's no other way around that.
Right. I mean, I was rooting for you guys. Like,
I'm sure you were.
I was full Texas fan that week. I was absolutely rooting for you guys. I interact with a few Texas fans on Twitter, and I was right there in their corner, being that cheerleader, hyping you guys up. And I watched that entire game, and it was quite unfortunate.
It was. And the thing that's frustrating the most is like, the game with Washington, and you're talking about the regular season game that was played up there at Husky Stadium. And it feels like I said, it felt like you were the better team. Clearly we're the better team. And you don't want to do that, Emily. Sorry, Kyle. But it felt like I was the better team. And I let that one frustrate because I wanted y'all to win. I just admire, like I like Oregon a little bit. There's a few teams for me that I'll always root for as long as we're not playing. Right. And the fourth down, I get frustrated because it doesn't work. And at the same time, I coached for a short amount of time. I would have done the same thing in every part of it, and that's part of what has gotten him to where he is. Mm-hmm. And as a player, you have to appreciate that because it's instilling and showing belief in its players. And so it's like, hey, I might be on my own 30 and I might be 4th and 3 and let's rock, as a player that has to be motivating. It has to hype you up in the moment. And so I like the aggressiveness. It's just shocking to me that, one of us couldn't beat those guys in 4 tries. And same thing though, some weird things happen in y'all's games. And then the game that we lost to in the Alamo Bowl, I mean, I don't even count that. People like to dog on Sarkisian for his bowl record. I'll be honest with you, Emily. I don't give a shit whatsoever because we didn't have Bijan Robinson. We didn't have Roshan Robinson. These are 2 NFL running backs, and they carried our offense all year long. Yeah. Our best receiver had a broken hand. I'm making excuses. This is awful. But and then last year, we fumbled the ball. We go into the third quarter. We fumbled the ball twice at halftime. So there's just something. They had a little magic for a couple of years. That's just what it is.
They did. Yeah.
Tip your cap. Glad he's gone. And y'all go get him. You'll definitely have an extra Duck fan. It's y'all's last regular season game. That's going to be personal for me, just a little bit.
Love it. No, I love it. That sounds great. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And what's the issue with Roshan, Kyle? I gotta ask because nobody just dogs our guy. This is like arguably the top Longhorn of all time. So type your issue down here. But going on, yeah. So I mean, preseason, obviously you've seen a little bit on the field. Did you give like a season prediction for Oregon? Maybe
Not officially. I
not
didn't
officially.
tweet anything out. No, I'm
Okay.
just standing by the fact that I understand there might be one loss, and then these
Yeah.
first two games happen, and I was like, "Yikes!" I need to kind of reevaluate my perspective here. But I'm standing firm on the fact that they will get it together, and that they will be fine. They will be okay.
My apologies, Kyle. This is the third show, man. I'm trying.
Yeah,
But
you got a
no,
fan. You got like a super fan right there.
yeah, Kyle and I, that's my guy. If he's not chatting or commenting in the chat, he's texting me, which is even funnier. Those
I
messages
saw him.
are
He told you to respond to his text.
it's a mess. Good guy though. He is a funny follow. He is hilarious. He had a meme earlier that he texted me and he was like, "I need your face for a meme," and I was like, "Oh Lord, this could go a number of different ways when Kyle's involved," but he killed it. It was hilarious. I don't know. Did you see? I have to ask you. Did you see the Michigan guy that brought up the whole 10-point thing? Did that make its way up to Oregon
I don't think
country?
so. I may have.
There's
Yeah, I know. I think I missed that, but
a podcast group that one of the gentlemen that was on essentially guaranteed Texas wouldn't score more than 10 points against Michigan. Gave several reasons as to why. He came on the channel earlier today saying the eyes of Texas because they lost, and I countered a few of his reasons. And the worst part is after the game, he's still not giving us any credit whatsoever. It's Michigan being bad, not about Texas being good, when the truth lies
right.
somewhere in between, of course. There's two teams out there. But so, yeah, I just had to ask. Sorry, I told you we wouldn't talk about Texas at all. And look, I just
Oh
brought
no,
it up.
you can talk about Texas. That's totally
Oh,
fine. We can talk about Texas. It's your show,
I've
man.
been talking about our losses, so I'm hoping people realize I do have a little humility. I love our team at the moment, but like you said, there's always room for a loss. I will say this, Kyle, if you could get out of the chat for a few minutes, this would be important. I don't want you to hear this. I do love you too, but in my prediction show preseason,
Yeah.
I had Texas losing to Oregon in the national championship game.
I was about to ask you what your regular season prediction
I
was
have
for
the Ducks.
Texas.
For Texas, I had us going 11-1 with a loss
Okay.
to Georgia. I'm gonna be honest. I started to feel really, really good as I started, hearing people talk about camp reports, and then the few friends inside the program I've made sharing things. I started to get really, really confident, but I just couldn't go on my own prediction show the first year in the SEC and just be like, "Hey, we're coming for that ass, and we're going 12-0." It felt wrong. I couldn't do it. So here we go. And so I couldn't do that. I had to be respectful to Georgia, but at the same time, I had that game 50-50. I still have that game 50-50. I feel very confident about that game. I had Texas losing in the SEC championship game, not to Georgia, to Alabama. It's getting twisted around here. I have Georgia missing the SEC championship game, losing multiple times. I'm bringing this up because Georgia is a very relevant team in the college football landscape at the time. Maybe I'm wrong, but I have Alabama beating Georgia, Georgia beating Texas, and then I believe it was Ole Miss beating Georgia. Making predictions for these conferences was insane. It
Yeah.
took me 48 hours to go through because we did every conference and then did some of the G5s as well. We didn't end up putting those into the show, but my goodness, it took forever. And so
It's a big commitment. It's a lot to kind of go through the schedules and figure out like the predictions. And it's just never something that I had the patience to do in the off season. I was like, one loss, we're good. I don't know, just one. Let's just move
the
on.
hard part was I'd look down and I'd have four teams at 10-2 with one or two conference losses and a 3 or 4 way tie, and I'd be like, oh, crap! Now I have to go pay attention to tiebreakers. So that
Exactly.
if I were to post all the schedules and all of my personal results, I don't want to look dumb. So, but I'm already looking dumb anyways because I took Texas Tech to win the Big 12 conference, and they are dumpster juice. Oh, they look bad. But so if we met in the national championship game, I'd be a happy camper. Texas were to lose that, yes, it would stink. But before the season, I told myself that, hey, a run to the national championship game would be a special year. It means we won a playoff game, obviously, at least one. Yeah. People would chill out just a little bit, perhaps, about Sark's bowl record. And, you're the second best team in America. But now that we're talking, and I've seen the Ducks on the field a little bit, and my blood gets boiling when I think about Dylan Gabriel. I want that opportunity.
Prediction.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I want that opportunity. We do a gambling segment, and yeah, it didn't go well with Texas Tech up there playing in Washington State. They put the pedal to the metal, and often the worst part is that Washington State did like nothing through the air. Their quarterback would drop back. I don't know if you watched any of that, but the Mateer kid, and then he just runs around the Tech defense. But I appreciate you bringing that up, Kyle. Thank you. Back to Texas Oregon. Pretty cool matchup. You're talking about two big Nike schools. We get all our all white uniforms. Y'all pick one of your 47 green uniforms, and let's go at it.
A nice color matchup.
A great color. Yeah, hard to beat, honestly.
Mhm.
So for me, I'm not saying I'm to a natty or bust attitude yet. I'm not there. I'm not.
Okay.
It's not that. I thought it would be a great run to just make it. But what about for you? What quantifies or qualifies rather as a successful season for the Ducks? Playoff win, natty.
I'm
Big Ten.
not natty or bust. I know
Okay.
that kind of goes against several fans and every fan base every single year, but I'm not natty or bust. I think, being able to hold our own and have a successful season with one loss max in a new conference, that would be successful to me because it's just you're laying the foundation for the years to come in terms of your placement in the conference and your reputation in the conference as well. So, yeah, it's definitely not natty or bust. I want that probably just as much, if not more, than fans of this fan base, of course. But playoff reaching the playoffs is that needs to that's also the marker of a successful season as well, especially when you consider the expanded playoffs. If we don't make the
Right.
playoffs, that's going to be concerning.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely, for either of our school to miss the playoffs, I would consider it to be a failure. No other
Yeah,
way around that. With the talent you have, the
right,
money that you have invested, the buy-in,
right.
recruiting, the level of coaching that we have, I think we have
Hmm.
honestly two of the very best. Two of the top five, absolutely. I know that it's an ever-changing list. One team loses 3 games, guy gets dropped down 17 spots. I know how it goes, but I think we're
Yeah,
coached up very well, and missing the playoffs at either school would be a travesty, to be honest. And
absolutely.
that's the thing. You're so much more level headed than I, and obviously, Oregon wanting to win a national championship, that hasn't been done before. And correct.
Correct.
So I'm making sure I'm not, on fumes just a touch, making sure that I've still got some of my facts right. And so, yeah, it shouldn't be a natty or bust season for any Oregon fan, in my opinion. I
Hmm.
mean, just getting, like you said, laying the foundation and creating constant with the new playoffs, you're not going to be around a lot. And it's just
Right.
knocking on the door. And eventually there's going to be a breakthrough. And
Yeah.
that's the thing with Texas. It's like, I last year I thought we had a great team. We go to Alabama and kind of manhandle the Tide, which was a really cool feeling.
Yeah.
And after that, it's like a lot of people are like, we're gonna win the Natty, we're gonna win the Natty, we're gonna win the Natty, and it's like we could win the Natty, it could happen, but we've forgotten a lot of things that have happened over the last 12 years or so at that point with Texas football. And so, like, let's just slow down just a little bit and see how the games play out. And then, of course, we went to Wyoming the next week, tied in the fourth quarter at 10.
I
Wyoming,
remember that. I
Wyoming.
totally remember that. That's right.
I
Yeah,
was at a
it's
wedding,
funny.
and I've never been more happy to be at a wedding during a football game because I'm getting bombarded with notifications and texts. And the wedding is in College Station, Texas. It's an Aggie wedding. They're all chirping at me, and I was just like, "This
Uh,
is rough, man. We beat
yeah,
Bama,
that's
and
rough.
we can't even just roll through." But credit to Wyoming, they've had a good program. Lost Coach Craig, suffering right now a little bit, but this is shout out. I have to give a shout out to my guy right here. Um, Maybe works for a big organization representing chairs that you would sit in and cover sports, and they just absolutely drug their big time rival UTSA. We did a pregame breakdown last Sunday night. He felt good about the game. Texas State's about 10 miles north of me. UTSA is about 30 miles south of me. And I was very, very much rooting for this guy. And 49-10, 49-10 final on a game that had a 2 to 3 point spread, depending on where you looked and which time of the week. So yes, thank you for being here, brother. Had to shout you out. Great win for the Texas State Bobcats and Coach GJ Kinney. But back to you, Emily. You're very level-headed. I think that your knowledge of ball is infinite. I've seen that on the timeline. I like watching you and Lounge interact. That it always makes me laugh so hard because you got to. That's what's great about college football Twitter. You've got a Mississippi State fan down in Starkville, and you've got somebody up around Oregon, and y'all are buds. And I think that's how I found your account for the first time was through Lounge.
Oh, really?
Yeah, back because it was right before Elon took all of our public likes and retweets and all the good stuff away, and so I couldn't see, I didn't have any duck interaction. I had no duck friends, and Lounge either retweeted you or commented on. So I don't know. That's how I saw your account for the first time. But I even told my wife earlier, my favorite thing about you is that every evening. I can't remember a day when you haven't done it, but you just simply asking, what brought you joy today? And I found myself so many times wanting to answer you. And I'm like, I'm just a person that's very grateful. I most of the time I'm overly emotional. And so I'm with kids and just, a career, just a lot of things to be grateful for. And so every time you do that, it makes me pause for a moment. And even if I don't comment or respond, I'm still knowledgeable right then in that moment. Right. And so I appreciate that. Thank you for that.
Good. Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. That's so kind. It's something I've been doing since I joined Twitter again in 2021. And it has just become like this thing. And I love when people reference it and when people, turn it around and even when they respond, because it's one of those things where we can be so busy rightfully talking trash on each other's teams and kind of going back and forth, but it's like one of those things. It's like a pause, and even if people don't respond, kind of like what you were saying, it's still that question still pops in their head and provides them with the opportunity to kind of answer, even if they do so mentally. So that's just something that I really love about it. But that's hilarious. I had no idea that you found me through Lounge, which is super funny. So you probably have seen some like really questionable like interactions.
I love Lounge. And
did you know he doesn't like strawberries? He's like an insane strawberry hater, and that's kind of like something that just really baffles me. He just
because you put people up on a pedestal, especially sometimes on Twitter. I'm like, man, he's cool. He's a cool cat.
Right.
You're cool. And then you find out something like that, and it totally changes.
Totally changes
most of your opinion about a guy.
Hey, he has some interesting takes. Did you see his mac and cheese photo?
I was literally about to bring it up, and I was hoping he would be here, but Lounge, come on, brother. You've done some incredible things on the timeline regarding food and food pictures. That was the opposite of your normal work, and
I don't know, it was like an off day.
Because who he is, he gets a pass, But those passes, there's not a ton of them in there. And so that's hilarious that everybody, obviously he's cool enough and they're comfortable enough with him to be like, nuh-uh, this isn't it, brother.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, people are definitely comfortable telling him that was absolutely not it. And he's a kind soul, so he can just go with it, which is good.
There you go. See, it's not just me. Everybody thinks it's a cool bit. I love it. Very not a bit, but I think it's incredible. Yeah.
Thank you.
And so I will say this is your Twitter @ right here, correct?
There's a 23 at the end.
Okay. So any Texas fans, Texas State fans, Aggies in here, we got a little bit of everything. And anyone else, Georgia Bulldogs Lounge, if you're lurking out there, you should follow her. You would like her. She's a great follow. But so Emily E. Taylor 23. A lot of great stuff coming out of that account. Is there anywhere else that you're sharing Oregon content or opinions?
Instagram at the same @. So Instagram on the same @ Yep.
Well, awesome. Well, you guys check her out, man. I would love to have you back. I thought that you killed it.
Thank you.
Further into the season, after you play a couple of big games, maybe the week of the Ohio State game or after, we'll figure something out and talk about that one. A little bit of a few eyes will be on that one around the college football world.
Just a few.
if you guys, I say this every video, y'all need to listen to me, or we're just gonna shut it down. There's 194 of y'all on Twitter, most likely watching this. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please go to my profile, follow the link in the bio. It'll take you to the channel. Subscribe. Trouty, what do you want? Ask a good question, and we'll run it. We'll keep going. You have a few more minutes, Emily?
Yeah, totally.
Give me a good question. Come on, Trouty. We need something. But yeah, go subscribe to the channel. We've had excellent guests on all day. Today's been a blast for this channel. A lot of fun. Thank you for being a part of that, Emily.
Of course.
So much fun. So go subscribe to the channel. Throw a couple likes out. It's free. It takes 5 seconds. I know you Twitter folks don't like clicking on links. I get it. I'm the same way. Like I said earlier, don't care if you watch any videos going forward on YouTube. Just go subscribe real quick. Okay. All right. I'm not seeing a question, Durag. I don't see anything, brother. But Emily, thank you again. That's the question. Good luck to your Ducks. We'll be keeping up with you this weekend. You got another big game, and so that's the thing about your schedule. It's not an easy schedule. I know people kind of talk about Oregon State, UCLA. I mean, those are games that those teams are going to be riled up to win big time games. So best of luck coming up. Those are a couple big ones. Hopefully we'll talk soon. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. Best of luck to you too.
Appreciate it. We might need that. All right, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Later.